All right, let's get started. Welcome to our stress-free test prep webinar for Louisiana educators. We are so excited to have you here with us today. Edulastic is a great assessment tool to help you get your students ready for state testing. Edulastic features over 50 tech-enhanced items, question types, over 90,000 items in the Edulastic Certified Item Bank, over 60,000 assessments in the test library, standards tracking, mastery reports, and player skins that look almost identical to the look and feel of your state test. These are just a handful of the features available to you once you sign up for your free Edulastic account. All right, as I'm sure you know, LEAP, or Louisiana's Educational Assessment Program, is for students in grades 3 through 8 and covers ELA, math, science, and social studies. Edulastic is an excellent platform to help your students prepare and has a variety of LEAP practice tests. With Edulastic, you can easily put items together to create an assessment or assign a pre-made one. To do this, you're going to log into your Edulastic account, navigate to your test library, and in the search box, you can type in LEAP. From here, you can preview, assign, clone, and edit any assessment of your choosing for your students. All right, and now for our presentation for the day, I'm going to turn it over to Chris Maller. Chris is an 8th grade social studies teacher from Louisiana. And Chris, you could go ahead and share your screen and take it away.
Okay, all right. So I like to call mine, the chaos of LEAP. It's something that's so important as far as our districts go for tracking the data of how students do. And teachers are always trying to control the anxiety that surround LEAP testing. And so what is such a beautiful thing is that Edulastic really makes it easy to do so because of what they have done by jumping to the forefront of providing those tools to us. Success starts for our students when we prepare them for what's ahead. As teachers, we move mountains to get them to get the knowledge to them, and that's great. But the missing piece of the puzzle is what Edulastic has handed us on a silver platter. And that's the ability to practice. You're going to perform and play like you practice. And teachers, we've tried to simulate, we've used Google Forms in the past and stuff like that, but we've never had a platform that so closely mimics the LEAP test. And that allows us to create that environment if we so choose. And then you can build the child's self-reliance on themselves and remove some of that anxiety so that when the big what if happens, they already know how to handle it. For many of our students, the only time they see a timed assessment is the LEAP test. I talk to tons of teachers in my parish and they don't regularly use the timed test. Yes, they do provide quite an ample amount of time for the LEAP test, but you want that feeling of, shall we say, purpose behind your test. You throw a little timer on there. It's already built into your extra options. And each one is specific and independent to each student. If you look at the top of your screen, I put in a little countdown timer. I couldn't find a good screenshot from the student's perspective of the timer, but it just sits right there on that bar, counting down for each individual student. The timer doesn't start for the student until they log in, so you don't have to worry about one kid rushing in and starting everybody's timer. Then you have all your testing tools that are at the top as well. Those testing tools closely mimic what we have available to us on the LEAP test itself. And then if you look at the format, like was already mentioned by Alyssa, the format of having the tabs of source 1, source 2, source 3, source 4, and then the play and stop button for the test read aloud should your student have that accommodation. This looks like what we're used to seeing with a LEAP exam. Zooming in on items. This is going to be on the next screen with all my testing tools. We live in a digital touchscreen world. Our kids love to touch the screen and zoom in, even try to zoom in, even if it's not a touch screen. And when we get our pictures on tests, sometimes they're not always of the highest quality. And as you start to zoom them in, you lose that perspective. The detail gets gritty, it gets grainy, it gets nasty. Edulastic provides a magnification tool. It's a little hard to see because of the size I had to make it, but it's right here in this box. And this man is actually standing all the way back here up against the house. But it brings it right up there in good perspective. It keeps good image quality where these kids can use the tool to examine the pictures and be able to derive as much information as possible from that source before they move on to the actual question. Maybe your kid doesn't have test read aloud, but he has trouble reading and focusing. They have a line reading tool. You place this box wherever you want, and then you drag this little elevator line by line, and it helps you focus no matter how or what's going on, you can focus on just that one line. Then you've got your classic cross out tool so that they don't waste the time rereading answer questions that they've already eliminated as possibilities for the answer. And then probably the biggest one for my math teachers out there, the scratch pad. The scratch pad is basically like having scratch paper on the screen right in front of them that you can toggle on and off. When you hit the scratch pad, it comes up over the second half of the screen like this, but then when you toggle it off, it goes away. You can draw different lines and shapes. You've got all your options up here where you can write equations. You have a ruler, a protractor. It puts everything at your fingertips exactly how LEAP does and allows the student to work within the problem. So if they are having trouble working on a problem, you can tell them, I'm sorry, we're under LEAP conditions. You have to do the best that you can. And then they learn to be self-reliant on those tools and they stop throwing that hand up all the time because we can't do it in LEAP testing. And that can create anxiety. The fact that the teacher's always been there for them before, and now they're not there anymore. What do? I don't know what to do. If they learn to work through the problem themselves inside Edulastic, it alleviates that problem. Then it was already spoken about in the earlier slides, but tons of LEAP resources. Y'all, I can't even the number of LEAP resources. And I'm especially spoiled to loving the fact that there are so many LEAP resources in there because I teach Louisiana history because I teach 8th grade. And we often have the fewest of the resources, but the questions are top quality questions. I'm pretty sure they're mostly Edulastic certified. And then they put them in these big giant tests, like 55 questions to a test. So you can blast your kids and say, okay, you've got 30 minutes to do these 55 questions and put them under that stress, put them under that purpose and get them used to feeling that so that when it's time to sit down and do this all important LEAP test, they're ready to go. They're self-reliant on themselves. Maybe you want to break that up. Maybe you teach one of the younger grades and you just want to give them a little taste. You want to sort of, work them up to that bigger assessment. Every single test question that's put together for a LEAP review is in the question bank as well. So you can put in the standard that you're looking for, go get the questions and put together your own little 6 to 7 item test and still work on those all important standards that you're worried about. Are they doing well on? We all get our data at the beginning of the year. We know where our kids are traditionally weak. That gives you the ability to focus on that one item and really take it to the next level and get some good data on the back end. Here I have a breakdown. I actually went into my own personal Edulastic and grabbed these because these are some standards that I know are typically talked about a lot. And so the last test that I gave, I wanted to see how they were doing and what their level of mastery was. Obviously, 8.4.1 needs some work. That's the lowest mastery standard that we had. Now, that being said, it was a pretty difficult question. It was actually a written question, but you still get it. You still get all the mastery data. So you can say, okay, I need to work on 8.4.1. Let's go back. Let's remediate it. Let's make another exam, put a timer on it and give the kids another shot at this, working up those skills. Because I think we all know as teachers at the end of the day, if we give the kids the skills, they'll be able to answer any question, whether they were there on that day or not, because they put the skills for test taking into play, and then they're able to be successful. So now what? Prepping students goes beyond the books. Let's show them the possibilities of what can happen on test day. I have been known, just because my kids are older, to close the test in the middle of them taking it. That's the best way that I can simulate an internet outage, because one of the very first times as a brand new teacher that I was giving the LEAP assessment, we had an internet outage. And I didn't know what to do. My kids didn't know what to do. It wasn't a very comfortable thing. But now my kids get used to it because they're used to the test popping in and out every once in a while. Because you just pause the test and then you reopen it and the kids can go right back to taking the test. The certified items, I cannot talk enough about them. They're high quality. They're good. Like you'll sit down and you'll be like, man, I'm just gonna take that and dump that on my actual test. It's that good. And then the online testing tools, again, if you teach the kids to be reliant upon themselves, give them the tools, let them practice, let them play, let them acclimate. I mean, even if you take 15, 20 minutes out of your day one day, just to sit down with a single question test that you made and make them manipulate and make sure that they know and understand how to use the testing tools, it can be oh so valuable to making sure that on testing day, everything runs smoothly for you and more importantly, the children. And that's really all I got.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. That was a fantastic presentation. I loved your angle of preparing the students for any situation, all environments, as well as using the Edulastic features to prepare for your state testing. Great. And as we mentioned, you can access the LEAP practice test. I dropped the link in the chat. So if you're interested in checking out some of those practice tests after this webinar, we encourage you to do so. I also encourage you to check out some of our additional resources. There is the Teacher Training Hub, which includes live and on-demand trainings, swag requests, and more. The Distance Learning Hub, which is a great place to get tips on making the transition from in-person to remote instruction. The Facebook community, where you can chat with other educators using Edulastic. The Help Center is great for finding tutorials, step-by-step instructions, and more for commonly asked questions. And finally, you can visit the Edulastic blog for assessment best practices, featured assessments, events, and more. All right, now we're going to open it up to our Q&A and discussion. So you can go ahead and drop your questions in the question box so that we can be sure to address them. Sure, okay, I will start with this one live. Jeff Brown asks, could you give a little more information with what Edulastic certified means? That is a great question. So we do have a team of educators who are professionals in standards, in content creation, in assessment design, and they are the ones that craft those items for you. So you know that they are high quality and readily available, grammar checked, all of the above, ready for you to add to your own assessments. And another one I can answer right off the bat here in our Q&A box. You can drop videos in Edulastic. Momentarily, I will find the link to guide you to adding multimedia to your assessments. It's a really fun way to engage your students. Oops. Great. Be sure if you have any questions to drop them in the Q&A box. We will either respond to them through the chat or we can answer live. Okay, I see a question here in the Q&A. While we are not going to cover specific LEAP questions in this Zoom today, you can find specific questions with the link that we dropped above, and I will drop it one more time so you don't have to dig for it. But that state test preps page that we shared for LEAP specifically is a great place to start.
And I can just share a little bit more here, Lisa, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Okay, great. Hey, everyone, this is Ileana. Thanks for joining us today. So Chris had mentioned these assessments in his presentation. We've dropped this link in the chat. When you go here, it'll give you some tips on preparing for LEAP, as well as access directly to different released LEAP assessments. When you enter the Edulastic item bank, so if you're on your dashboard, when you first log in to your free account, any account, you can access these for free. You just head over to the test library here in the left side. And actually, I have LEAP already in here. So that'll take you right here to the test library. And as you can see, there are over 60,000 assessments that are pre-made and ready for you to dive into. You can search up here for LEAP, and it'll pull up these assessments. Before you dive into an assessment, you can click on it to preview. And I know someone asked about high school. Let's see if we have that here. So you can search for different grades. Let's see. There we go. Here's a biology practice test. So you can click into that and you can preview the assessment. So this is what it would look like in Edulastic. It mimics the look and feel of the actual LEAP assessment. Here's a passage-based item. Students can answer multiple choice. Here's drag and drop. Drop down, multiple choice, et cetera, et cetera. As you can see, there are a lot of questions here. So something that Chris had mentioned is you can work from pre-made tests, but you don't have to use the whole assessment. You can use specific items. You can clone this to make it your own, or you can go over to the item bank and you can also search for LEAP items here and pick and choose to make your own assessment. So that's a quick look at LEAP in Edulastic.
Awesome. Thanks, Ileana. Chris, I'm seeing some questions roll through the chat for you. Let's start with, how often do you make your own assessments versus pulling from the test library?
I try to always make my own assessments, but I still pull from the library. I honestly feel you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't pull some of those certified questions just because of the length to which they're scrutinized to be set up in that library. And I will be the first to admit I am not the biggest computer genius. And so it's really big for me. I can make a test question all day, a normal test question, but when you start getting into your drag and drops and your matchings and your other fancy tech enhanced questions, I'd rather make sure that it just works the first time and pull from the library at that point. But 9 times out of 10, I'm making my own assessment, but it's a combination of my material with that of Edulastic's.
Great, thank you, Chris. And I actually have one more question for you. What would you recommend to anyone who is just getting started with Edulastic?
I think the biggest thing for me was taking the Edulastic Level 1 certification. I got into Edulastic through a coworker and I started playing with it because, like I said, I do tech pretty well. But then I was approached with the availability of the Edulastic Level 1 certification, and just getting to see all the ins and outs of the way that Edulastic worked really helped me to understand how to better manipulate the program itself, and made it so that I became one of the big proponents of Edulastic at that time, because anytime anybody had a problem, I could just jump in and say, oh, that's easy. And a couple of keystrokes later, the problem was solved. So if you really want to know more about Edulastic, take that Level 1 certification course. And if you really like it, Level 2, and you will walk away an expert in Edulastic as much as you need to be.
Great, thanks, Chris. All right, I am seeing some questions pop in here. This presentation will be available post when we finish up. We will be posting it on YouTube and it will be available on Facebook as well.
I see a question about standards-based reports too. We can drop a link about how that works. That actually might be a good question for Chris too. Chris, what reports do you find the most helpful when you're working with your students and getting them ready for LEAP?
For me, it's the standards-based report. I love to check their progress towards mastery. Every year at the beginning of the year, at least in my district, we're handed a set of data from last year that says, here's how our students are trending. They're behind in civics and geography. And so that becomes my focus. If what I'm doing is working as far as Louisiana history in general, with the importance of the Mississippi and the indigenous people and things of that nature, then I know that I have the flexibility and the ability to use Edulastic to focus a little bit more closely on the civics and the geography. And I can monitor their progress towards mastery through pulling those reports. And it's mostly because, and I'm pretty sure this is only available in the premium edition, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can compare multiple assessments to one another. So you can grab the very first assessment you give them and compare it to the second, third, fourth, and you can watch and see that stair step up, stair step down, that holding steady, so that you can constantly reevaluate what you need to do to get them on track to master that standard.
Great, thanks, Chris. All right, we see one more question in the Q&A box here. What are the differences between the free subscription and the paid subscription, our premium teacher account? The great news is that the Edulastic free account is a robust system that will not expire. So if you are content with the free version, which many teachers are, you don't have to worry about upgrading at any point to access things that you will need. With the premium upgrade, you can get additional features like our anti-cheating software and our Desmos calculator, which is a fan favorite, amongst other things. I can go ahead and drop the premium information in the chat as well.
And if I may, real quick, the anti-cheating features in the premium they're worth the money in my estimation. They really are. It really gives peace of mind.
Yes, we have people that are big fans of the premium account, and as well as teachers that love their free account. So, it's both are very robust for the classroom. Great, and thank you. Ileana did just share some premium resources if you're interested in taking a look in the chat.
Chris, which are your favorite anti-cheat features?
Well, for me, one of the best ones is the lockout feature. You can set it up to warn the students if they navigate away from the testing tab. And then if they navigate away after however many times you decide, it locks the test and it flags it on your screen, so that there's no, oh, well, I didn't do that really. Well, yeah, you did, because the system was watching you. In addition to that, pair that with the fact that we also use GoGuardian. You can watch their screen while they do it. And then the other one is shuffling the questions and answer choices, because if you shuffle the questions, there's still the slight probability that you will end up with two kids on the same question at the same time. But if you then scramble the answer choices so they don't have the same A, B, C, D, it's just, double covering your bases.